All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS video. Going live for the PGA Championship here. Already have some questions rolling in. I did get a haircut here, but I'm hating it on the webcam. I'm going to grab a freaking hat real quick. 9 to 5 hat. Got some questions coming in. I'll answer those real quick. So, yeah, so that intro, dude, Jeffrey, I am mad. I, fixed that twice, and it just didn't update right before the live stream. Whatever, I'll get that fixed next week. So, top 5% owned players, I think Brooks, Xander. After that, probably Chaz will be pretty high owned, I'd guess. You know, it's really hard to gauge Tiger's ownership these weeks, but I imagine that he'd be pretty high owned as well. After that, it's really going to be a toss up. You really can't predict it after there. So, Jason Day or Colin Morikawa. You know, for cash, I would definitely go with Colin Morikawa there. Definitely the safer play for cash. If you're trying to mix it up, I think Colin Morikawa could be a little bit chalky as well. There's not going to be huge chalk this week, but all in all, I think Morikawa would be more owned. Jason Day could be a little bit more sneaky this week. Obviously, he's just been really great recently, and you look at his comp course history, the PGA Championship last year and the year before that, top 23 and 19th finish, and then 21st at the U.S. Open last year. So he does tend to turn it up when majors come around. All right, sorry about that. All right, so thoughts on Tony Finau and Tommy Fleetwood. So Tony Finau, I just don't want to play him this week. I don't know. You can play him. I'm not going to talk you off of him. You just worry about the upside with him, and he hasn't been all that great in majors like this. Kind of poor finishes the last 2 years at the PGA Championship. Nothing better than a top 42 finish. So that is the worry. He missed the cut at the U.S. Open last year, which I think the U.S. Open last year is going to play very similar to the U.S. Open this year. Or, sorry, for the PGA Championship this year, the event we have this week. So, you know, that is my worry there with Tony Finau. He's going to be low owned. I mean, you look at the players right around Tony Finau, too. You got Matthew Fitzpatrick, who I like, Terrell Hatton, Gary Woodland, Adam Scott. Heck, I'd be fine with Jordan Spieth. And then you mentioned Tommy Fleetwood there. I'll talk about Tommy Fleetwood a little bit. All in all, Tommy Fleetwood should make the cut at this event. Kind of the same thing I said about Tony Finau, though. He hasn't really done that well in events like this. So that is the worry with someone like, Tommy Fleetwood and Tony Finau. I don't want to talk you off of those plays. It is one of those weeks where you can kind of make a lot of stuff work, but I would try to maybe fit someone in there that's a little bit more safe for May cut and also that has a little bit more upside. Adam Scott fade. So let's see here. I mean, I don't get why you would want to all out fade him. I don't think he's going to be chalky, and if he is, I probably have just missed that. As you guys know, I typically don't listen to a lot of other people's content. I kind of like to fade the noise because once I start to listen to other people's content to try to gauge ownership, it just never works out. Then you start to overthink, and it's not a good thing. I like Adam Scott. 3 straight top 10 finishes for the comp course history that we're looking at. The PGA Championship last year and in 2018. The U.S. Open last year as well. Yeah, sure, he hasn't played in forever, but he has been playing this course for about the last week. And Hazy mentioned a great point on the betting podcast yesterday. If you guys missed that, definitely check that out. It's pretty good podcast. We kind of recapped our pretty stellar week last week with the Barracuda and the WGC. But getting back to the point, he kind of pointed out that Adam Scott's win last one on tour was right after a break as well. He hadn't played for a while, but on the PGA Tour at least. So I like Adam Scott. I think there's some better plays right around his price point, but I get it. Josh with the best question so far here. Do you see advantage playing morning guys, or does that benefit day one? So pull up the question slide here. So for me, you guys kind of know my general rule of thumb for when there's going to be a weather advantage. Typically, I don't like it to change my overall builds that much. And for me this week, I kind of got lucky. Saw that there's a weather advantage, went back, checked the player pool, and I'm like, wow, 10 of my top 11 rated plays in the player pool this week have the morning tee time advantage on Thursday. So that was pretty nice. I will say, I'll give this to you guys just right out there. Nick Taylor, top 10 in early first round scoring. He has a really solid tee time. I think he could be a first-round leader bet, but if you're doing some showdown slates, I typically like to attack a weather advantage, I think Nick Taylor's going to be a good play for you for that. But I do think that there is going to be an advantage there, Josh. Yes, I think it should be more of a 50-50 decision maker this week. For me, I was on Xander or Webb a ton. I like Xander a little bit more now just because he does have that better tee time. Or I like drop down to Berger because he does have that slightly better tee time. Now, the biggest worry with kind of the wind, though, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this personally playing golf, but it's kind of hard to adjust to wind mid-round when it picks up. So let's say the wind's like 5 miles per hour for the first 9, and then it picks all the way up to like 18. Those gusts start to get bad. It's really hard to adjust your golf game like mid-round like that. Maybe that's just me, but I know when like it's a windy round throughout the whole round, it's easier to like know how to shape your shot and what's going on weather-wise to be able to shape your shot. So I don't know, it might just be a mental thing for me, but that all in all, weather advantage, yes, there's going to be one, but you really shouldn't drastically change anything too much. Just a 50-50 decision maker and just the showdown thing. Gary Woodland, I like Woodland this week. Just he's a great weather player, great wind player. 8th finish last year, 6th finish the year before that at the PGA Championship. Obviously won the U.S. Open, which I think is a great comp course to look at, comp tournament, I guess, to look at for this week. So I like Gary Woodland quite a bit. He's a top 10 stat fit. If he just gets that driver going, that's the big thing with Gary. If he's going to miss the cut, it's going to be because he was driving horribly. So that is the worry with Woodland. There's plenty of great plays around there as well, but you go up to Hatton, you could go up to Fitzpatrick, you go down Scott, Spieth, Fleetwood, Answer I like a ton. All right, Owen Johnson coming in with the Zach Johnson question as well. So he's another guy that is a sneaky good play for the showdown slate tomorrow, the round 1 showdown slate. He actually ranks top 20 in early first round scoring, which probably is going to surprise a ton of people. He has a great tee time. It's like before 8 o'clock, I believe. I'd have to double check, but pretty much the thing with tomorrow is the earlier the tee time that you have in the morning, the better, so that you can get the most holes with, less than 10 miles per hour winds before it gets up to those gusty 15. And I like Zach Johnson for that purpose. I think he's going to be someone that's a kind of a sneaky value play that just grinds out cuts. Zach Johnson, that's what he is. He's a guy that grinds out made cuts, especially at majors. Made the last 3 majors that I'm looking at for like comp course history. And he has kind of played well in poorer weather events. It's kind of how he sneaks in and takes advantage. So I don't mind him as a play. He should be able to take advantage of his weather tee time advantage. Now, if he did have the later tee time, I probably would be off of him, to be honest with you, but I just like the fact that it's kind of setting up well for him this week. Crazy to go Dustin Johnson over Brooks? No. So kind of going back to last week, it's like Brooks and DJ both had great course history. Both were struggling, okay? They're kind of very similar, except for the fact that Brooks is able to come in clutch and close out some majors. They're pretty much the same player, though. If you want to go with DJ over Brooks, you can. I'm fine with it. Personally, I'm not on really either of them. I think Brooks is priced up a little bit too much, which kind of sounds crazy for me to fade Brooks. It's just Brooks is always tough, to be honest with you. It's hard to bet on a guy where we just haven't seen it. We saw it once last week, and everything else has just been horrible. But that's pretty much Brooks. We kind of are used to that now with Brooks. It's just hard when a guy ranks freaking 95th as a stat fit, and he's the 2nd overall rated player on Draftkings. But it makes perfect sense, obviously. A first, and a 2nd for the courses that we're looking at. So, and for the other comp course that I'm looking at, he had a top 10 finish as well, which is his only other good start pretty much this whole season. So definitely get Brooks as a play. But getting back to DJ a little bit, 2nd overall finish last year. He should make the cut. I fully expect him to make the cut, and we're getting him at 9,000. Like, I don't think you should go out of your way for Dustin Johnson this week, but if you're at the end of your build and you're like, hey, I like my, lineups a ton. I'm at like Tiger, DJ. I already have Berger in my build. I'm going to put Dustin in there. I'm perfectly fine with that. Definitely like that call. But I wouldn't say go out of your way for him. We got a big weather split Thursday morning. Yeah, Thursday morning is definitely the better wave. I kind of already touched on that as well. I'll do it real quick again. Attack the morning weather split with showdown slate. That's the general rule of thumb. But 2, if you're at a 50-50 decision maker, or kind of already used this example, if you're like wondering who should I play, Webb Simpson or Xander Schauffele, I would go with Xander just because of the weather split. Xander has a better weather split. Now, Xander has kind of struggled in round 1s a little bit here and there. Maybe this helps him do that. So that's kind of how I'm looking at weather split this week. Hey, Chef, what's going on, man? Glad to see you back in the live chat. So I am liking the Euros quite a bit. Let's see here. Is Day actually chalk? So yeah, DFS Chef would know more about like the lower chalk there. So if Jason Day is going to be chalk, that's pretty shocking to me at 8.4. Yes, he's looked good, but you got Ricky right there, who I think has a little bit more upside. You got Daniel Berger priced up a little bit more. You got Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland right there. That's kind of surprising to me if Day's going to be chalk. That's really shocking. But you mentioned Hatton and Fitzpatrick. I love those guys a ton. Fitzpatrick here, just going based off the questions, it's like, who did I get on more now from Monday? It was Matthew Fitzpatrick. I just kept looking at him like, this dude plays really well in, windy conditions. Yeah, he's been putting like a stud, but whatever. He grades out as a top 31 stat fit. Pretty decent. Comp course history, 41st finish here last year, or at the PGA Championship last year. Missed cut in 2018, but he really wasn't who he is now as a golfer then. I kind of say the Euros typically take a little bit longer to get used to playing on the like PGA Tour circuit, and I think back then he really wasn't playing that many events over here. It was more like sporadic, and then he had a 12th overall finish at the U.S. Open last year. So yeah, I like Fitzpatrick quite a bit. He's one player that I got on a lot more. And then Hatton, you can't really go wrong with Hatton, I don't think. He's priced at 8K. Now if he was priced at like the top end by Berger, you'd have to think about it a little bit more. But to get Terrell Hatton at 8K, dude, that's made 15 straight cuts on tour. Hasn't missed a cut this season. It's a great play. Top 10 stat fit. Just been a major cut maker as well. You really can't go wrong with Terrell Hatton. Now, maybe, just maybe, the WGC event was a sign of bad things to come. But I kind of just writing that off of it just being a WGC event. That just sometimes happens with players. Gotcha, Ben. No problem with that. Wow, DFS Chef is saying that Jason Day is going to be estimated for 15% ownership. That's kind of crazy. Typically, I don't like to worry about ownership in majors, but that's kind of crazy to me. I mean, I'm not saying fade Jason Day. I definitely have Jason Day, but I'm going to be underweight on him based on that projection. That seems kind of crazy to me. Wow. But, guys, the overall strategy with majors and just overall in PGA DFS, shoot to get 6 for 6 across the cut line. That's the overall goal. And if it's someone that's chalky in a major, does that, whatever. That's good. You're fine. Let's see here. Chef. Yeah, so the winning score, it is going to be interesting this week. It's just a good question. It's like, how difficult are they going to make the pin placements with the bad weather? How hard is the rough actually going to play? It seems like it's going to play very difficult, but we really don't know for sure. I do think something around like 10 under would be it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like -1, -2, depending on, pin placements and whatnot. It really just depends on them. Thoughts on Cantlay and Rahm? So on the betting podcast, I thought that, Cantlay is actually not a bad, outright bet. He's kind of my favorite of the top end guys, mostly just because he has been the best at hitting the fairway out of those top end guys. He ranks 50th in that. Everyone else is like in the 100th range or so. Bryson's 104, Rory's 123, Brooks is 100th, and Justin Thomas is 82nd or 123. Sorry. Obviously, that doesn't really matter. Those guys are world-class players. They can typically club down when they want to. When they're clubbing up like that, they're typically doing it in smart spots where it's not going to be as penalizing. So, you can take that stat with a grain of salt or, yeah, whatever. But he's a 5th overall stat fit rank. Had a 4th finish at the PGA Championship in 2018. Had a 3rd overall finish at the U.S. Open. I just really like Jon Rahm's upside. We've seen him just been a top 10 machine this year. So I am perfectly fine with Jon Rahm. Now, if you want to go Patrick Cantlay, I love Patrick Cantlay as well, to be honest with you. I don't really think we have to go to Rahm in PGA DFS lineups. That's why I was kind of touching him as an outright bet. But Patrick Cantlay, I do like a ton for DFS lineups. He does have the better weather advantage. He's a guy that does go out and score typically in early round 1, which really should help him separate from the other players in the field to help him better be able to make the cut. And if you're just going to make cut at his price point, that's not bad. What is he at? 9.4 this week. That is pretty incredible. He had a 3rd finish at the PGA Championship last year, and then a 27th year prior, and then a 21st finish at the U.S. Open last year. So I really like Patrick Cantlay, top 10 stat fit as well. Really doesn't have a weakness in his game. The only worry that I have with Patrick Cantlay is that he hasn't looked great recently. It's been kind of a struggle, if you will. Like nothing's really come easy for him, which is somewhat worrisome. But if he could just kind of be a little bit more consistent, the top 10 is not out of the picture for him. To finish out a DraftKings lineup, Nick Taylor or Zach Johnson. Honestly, I would say make two. I like them both. I think they're both going to make the cut. I think Nick Taylor has a little bit more cut upside, just kind of going back to what I just echoed about Cantlay and what I echoed about Nick Taylor earlier, is that Nick Taylor is a strong, early round one scorer. We've seen him already win on tour this season. He's made 10 out of 15 cuts, 3 out of the last 4, with, his only made or miscut coming at the Memorial, where he really choked down the stretch, where he, double bogey on 17, where I would have loved to seen where his ball ended up, because he was in the sand trap. He had a chip out, and then it was into the rough, right into the front of a bunker. Pretty much it was a hole that he probably should have birdied, that I think he just got a poor lie on, and he wasn't able to bounce back from that. So I think Nick Taylor at 6.3K is just absolutely amazing. I like Zach Johnson as price point. He's kind of a made cut at that price point, but I think Nick Taylor has a little bit more upside and a little bit more made cut equity. Projecting the winning number to be -10, so then probably the projected cut is going to be +1-ish. Really depends with that T70 in ties this week, which is kind of interesting to me. Pretty interesting thought there. I'll get into some of the Fanduel picks here, and then I will take some more questions. All right. So I've been working on this little slide here for you guys, and you're trying to just bring it up FanDuel-wise. So FanDuel's pretty interesting this week. I'm just going to go through a lineup build here with you guys to kind of show you guys how kind of easy it is to make a decent build. I like Xander and Patrick Cantlay a ton. They have the nice weather advantage. I already touched on the tiebreaker for me. I really like Webb there, but I'm giving the tiebreaker to Cantlay and Xander there. Go a little bit lower here. So you could go Scott if you want to. I'm fine with that. Get Terrell Hatton at a decent price. I like that. Daniel Berger, I like that. We'll go to my boy Nick Taylor, who's pretty much min price. And then you could fit pretty much anyone in there. You could go Tiger if you wanted to. Webb if you wanted to. So pretty much in a build like this, I mean, you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 top 10 stat fits for the week. And Nick Taylor is a great value. He's just a great value. You could do a little bit more of a balanced approach, I guess, if you wanted to. Let's see here. Just kind of showing you guys what I mean sometimes when I'm saying that FanDuel's pricing makes it easy to fit a bunch of studs in here. Now, I'm not saying play this lineup, because I'm literally just making this off the fly. But I'm making it to show you guys kind of how easy the pricing it can be sometimes. So, got answer down here. I do like Fitzpatrick there. Let's see who we can subtract out here. I think Terrell Hatton's a little bit priced up. So, Fitzpatrick there. Then we have a ton left over. I mean, you go with Sergio. He's probably going to make the cut. I like that. Go with English, who I like a ton. It's just easy to make a good build on FanDuel this week. Oh, so Russell Henley, I do like that talk too. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for FanDuel. I'll get into that Russell Henley in just a second. Pretty just soft pricing on FanDuel. You can really make anything you want work on FanDuel, so definitely go out there and do it. Oh, shoot. I do want to point out Ches Reeves' price point on FanDuel. 8.5K on FanDuel. That's real cheap, guys. I mean, Ches Reeves has been a stud recently and in majors recently as well, so I like him quite a bit. I thought Snedeker was going to shock us last week, so I don't know if the Snedeker is going to shock anyone this week. I thought last week would have been the week for Sneds. All right. So Chef is mentioning Russell Henley. So Russell Henley, another one of the players where as the week went on, I kind of got onto him a little bit more. I did mention him in the betting podcast as well. I think Henley makes for a pretty solid top 40 bet for you. And I'll bring him up on the stat sheet here. Let me type it in real quick. So top 25 stat fit. So really everything is looking great. Fairways hit, 33rd. Greens in regulation, 6th. bogey avoidance, which is going to be key this week for a lot of players like Henley. 7th in that. Ball striking 35th. With the projected cut, where I think it's going to, finish at, whether it's -1 or +1 or anywhere in between, give or take a stroke. It sets up well for someone like Russell Henley, who typically is not a guy that's going to go out and score. He's a guy that's not going to make mistakes. He's a guy that's going to be right around that number. So to get a value play that I'm projecting to make the cut at 6.6, that's great. I mean, this dude was a 9K play just like 2 weeks ago that was too much for him 2 weeks ago, but at this price point, I like him a ton. So I get that. All right, so we already talked about the weather advantage for questions. Ownerships, we already talked about a little bit. Typically with majors, I don't think we have to worry about ownerships that much. The goal is to get 6 for 6 across the cut line. If you do that, you're going to have a successful week. It's pretty much as simple as that. I do think the weather and kind of the course setup this week is going to lead to some random miscuts. It's a major. There are just some random miscuts sometimes. So really, you just got to hope to not get unlucky with that bad break. And then from there, just be, stellar. You can make a few more builds this week. Definitely go to the GPP side of that. My lineup approach really this week has been everywhere and in between. But for my main build, I have done more of a balanced approach, which I was flirting with the idea of putting Nick Taylor in my main build. But I'm like, I want to chase 6 for 6 here. I don't want to kind of bring in, 4 out of 6 potentially by putting in a value play that low, because I really don't think you have to do that to make a great, strong lineup. I do have Nick Taylor a ton in the showdown slate, though. I already talked about the top change from Monday to now. So we got any more questions coming in from the major? I know we talked about pretty much a good amount of information already. Do have the 9 to 5 membership here for you guys, $10 a month. You guys kind of already know the spiel here. The sample build, I have switched that up to where it's a first look lineup video thought process, where I kind of just go through and give you guys my lineup thoughts and kind of why I would make one decision over the other and kind of how that build process goes each week. So obviously that lineup is the first look lineup is going to change as the week goes on, like it does typically every week, but I think it really is a great solid starting point for a lot of people to just kind of see what I mean by lineup approach, because half the time in PGA DFS contests, lineup construction is the biggest, path to success, path to profiting. And then with that, we get the core plays, player pool, stat model, exposures, write up, and then we got the chat as well. So also have been putting in showdown comments in there when I think there's an advantage, like we got this week. All right, so just a couple of players that I want to touch on a little bit more on Draftkings if there are any more questions coming in. Just a little bit lower down. All right, so I got there. So I've had a lot of lineups end up in this price point range, which is kind of the most difficult part of this week, where I'm ending up on Ches Reavie, Billy Horschel, Shane Lowry, or dropping down to Harris English. Now, I've made a ton of builds there, and I think they're all potentially are going to make the cut. Shane Lowry is a very, very interesting play this week, though. I just want to touch on him a little bit more because I didn't really touch on him at all this week. So, top 24 stat fit, great win player. We know that. Look at the PGA Championship last year. He had an 8th finish. The U.S. Open last year, 28th finish, and then the U.S. Open the PGA Championship in 2018, 12th finish. That's been spectacular for him. Made 3 out of the last 4 cuts and really showed some upside last week. And the miscut that he had was just by 1 stroke, which is kind of pretty solid there for Shane Lowry. At his price point, we like that a ton. And then going a little bit lower, I know I touched on Ches Reavie quite a bit. I thought he would be one of the most chalky plays this week. I'm not sure if he is or not. 14th finish last year, 12th in 2018, and then a 3rd at the U.S. Open last year. His stats have been getting better. He only ranks out as a top 42 stat fit, looking at the season long-term stat fit. But more recently, he'd be a top 25 stat fit, which we do like quite a bit. He does have the slightly better weather tee time advantage as well. But if you wanted to do a pivot, you could go down to Billy Horschel, who I don't mind. I think he's going to make the cut. A lot of people were on him last week, but I think this would be the week to play him. And then going down to Harris English, top 5 stat fit Harris English. It'd be a little sad if Harris English doesn't pull through and get like a top 20 finish, because this is kind of a statement week for him in his career. For a guy that I've been on a ton this year, I'm really cheering for him to pull through. He had a 58th finish at the U.S. Open last year, had a top 20 finish as one of the comp courses that we're looking at this week. So I just really am pulling for someone like Harris English. This is a week where I'm kind of playing a lot of similar names from previous weeks and cheering for them to do well, because typically that does pan out well. So we got Andrew asking, hey, no problem, man. It's a live stream. You can come and go as it is. I don't mind answering a question once or twice. So am I worried about Victor Hovland this week? Kind of struggled in the last 2 events. I'm not really that worried about him. The only worry with Hovland really is the price point with him. I don't think you're getting as much upside with him as some of the other players ran that price point range. But if you're ending up on him, you feel good about it, I'm fine with it. You look at what he did at the U.S. Open last year. Obviously played spectacular. He's gonna drive the ball accurate, not gonna make many mistakes. Great ball striker, great total driver. I'm not too worried about it. I think Morikawa's a little bit better play. I think Jason Day has a little bit more upside, and Ricky has a little bit more upside. You could go up to Berger, who I like pretty strongly this week. Then you could go with like Fitzpatrick as well. So that's kind of the problem with Hovland this week. I don't think he's a bad play. I just think there's quality plays right in his price point range. I am on Hovland this week, just not as much as those other guys. That 8K price point range is absolutely loaded this week. You could really not make a mistake there at all this week, just because it is loaded there. All right, and then real quick, I'll get into the Yahoo plays, and then I'll be wrapping up the live stream here. All right, so the good old Yahoo plays here, guys. So it's kind of a loaded field this week on Yahoo. You can make a lot of stuff work. You don't really have to go to the value side too much, because the price range is pretty good. You got Ches Reavie right here, $22. That is phenomenal for him, and that's really the lowest that you have to go. I don't mind Brennan Todd on Yahoo actually as well, $24. Harris English at $24 is pretty spectacular as well. But once again, Jordan Spieth not getting any love on Yahoo. The crazy thing is, though, that Yahoo is actually pricing Jordan Spieth appropriately kind of the last few weeks than the rest of the field. They're not like stamping the name value onto him, so you definitely go with him. But Fitzpatrick, I like a ton at that price point. You can really open up a lot of stuff by putting in like Fitzpatrick and Chaz in there. Then you got Answer and Berger, price pretty low as well. And then you can really just pay up for any of the studs there. Obviously, Xander is pretty low in comparison to some of the other studs there. I don't know if we would have to go with Terrell Hatton on Yahoo, just because he is priced up quite a bit there. So that'd be my worry there. All right. So yeah, got a couple questions coming in here, and then I'll wrap it up. All right, so Woodland or Day, 1 spot left. So, man, yep. That is the problem with this week that I've had a ton, is that I have ended up in probably 60% of my builds in that price point range, and I've just made a bunch of builds right there. For me, I'm going to say Gary Woodland. Now, I know a lot of people probably don't like that, but Gary Woodland has been able to grind out make cuts. We've seen him do that more long-term this year. 13 out of 15 make cuts in the year, and he has a little bit more upside, I think, than Jason Day does this week. I just keep going back to the last 3 majors that we're looking at for this week. The PGA Championship last year, the PGA Championship in 2018, the U.S. Open last year. 3 straight top 10 finishes. Now, Jason Day hasn't played poorly as well. He has 3 straight top 23 finishes or better. And obviously, looking at his recent form has been spectacular as well. I like Gary Woodland a little bit more. I think he's a little bit safer, but I really don't think you can go wrong there. A lot of these questions I'm noticing this week, I'm kind of with my lineup builds this week as well, is that I'm really hoping there's not a wrong answer this week, where we're just trying to, pick the most correct answer. For me, that's kind of my approach this week, is that I don't think we're going to be on the wrong players. I know that there's going to be some random variance with the wind and with kind of the rough, the way it is, where there's some good lies and there's some bad lies. There's going to be some random miscuts where I wouldn't be surprised if like Xander misses the cut, Rahm or Rory misses the cut. That's just kind of what happens at majors. But overall, you just kind of hope that you're not on the unlucky side of that, and that, everyone else comes through. All right, so Chad is coming in with another question here, and then I'll be wrapping it up, guys. So hope you guys have a good PGA Championship. If you guys have any more questions, put them in the comment section. Put them in on Twitter. shoot me an ad on Twitter, and I'll be able to help you guys out there. So wrapping it up, we got Stenson or Sergio. So really, really interesting question there. So we kind of talked about it on the betting podcast as well yesterday. Stenson, I think, Hazy mostly mentioned this, but I kind of agree. Stenson makes for a sneaky kind of bet. I would much rather do Stenson as a bet than I would as a DraftKings play, just because, we saw the 35th finish last week, which not horrible. That's pretty much what you would have expected from him from not playing recently. Typically is a, better windy player. But I think Sergio is much more safe. I would go with Sergio in DraftKings. He should make the cut. He has a much higher cut likelihood. But if you're doing some bets, I think doing a Stenson top 20 bet is not a horrible idea. Hao Tung Lee, no. But that does bring up a good point that I want to touch on real quick, and then I'll be wrapping it up. So Hao Tung Lee, no, I'm not on him, but I don't want to butcher his name. Zhang Zhang, I always mess it up. I really do. A lot of people are on Ryan Palmer because of his recent finishes here in the last few weeks. He's had some top 10 finishes here. But so Zhang, I can't even say it. He's priced at 6.6K. He had a top 12 and a top 10 finish recently as well. If you're just looking at recent form, like a lot of people are with Ryan Palmer, I think that play makes just as much sense as Ryan Palmer does. Ryan Palmer's kind of going to be a little bit more, I guess, chalky value play than really he should be. I definitely get it, but you could go that route as well. Yeah, thanks, DFS Chef. Good luck to you this week. Yeah, let's have some green screens this week. It's going to be a good week. I can kind of feel it. Just got to hope that we don't get unlucky with, some bad wind breaks. That's really what's going to be the make or break point this week. But hope everyone enjoyed the live stream. Hope you guys will come and join 9to5 Nation, $10 a month. The PGA DFS membership is in the link in the description below. So definitely check that out. All right, let's have a good week. We're out. And as always, let's keep cashing, guys.